Hi, welcome back to God Aware. This morning, before I came into the office, I really felt I had a word to speak, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to share. This is what's on the heart of God, on the heart of the Father for this morning. And as I came into the office to record something, I really felt it was like, no, that's not it. That was something for you, but it's not to go on the God Aware channel. It's not for YouTube at this time, so that's not what you're to share. So I really spent some time this morning just in worship and prayer. I was like, okay, God, what's on your heart? What's on the heart of the Father this morning? What do you want to say? And first, I came back to the message that I shared last week about Jacob's name being changed from Jacob to Israel. And there was a part in there that I was discussing with a friend, the wrestling with God, where he struggled with God. And I really feel like God is speaking more to that part of it to people today, that there's those of us that we wrestle with God, we encounter a struggle, and it's a question mark. It's like, well, we're in the middle of following God's will. We're doing what he's called us to do, and yet we encounter this struggle where Jacob was on his way doing what God had called him to do, going where God called him to go, and then he found himself in a wrestling match. And I think many of us, we're doing what we're called to do, and then we encounter this struggle, this wrestling, and it can be confusing. Like, God, I'm doing what you've called me to do. Why is there a struggle here? You're like almost questioning, like, am I in the will of God? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Why am I struggling now? And early here, the Father saying, the encounter is in the struggle. Your encounter is in the struggle. And we see that with Jacob, after wrestling, and that's when the encounter came. He actually encountered, God in the struggle, in the wrestling, and God changed his name. So I really feel the Father speaking to us today that don't mistake the struggle as you've done something wrong, but see it for what it is. He's like, the struggle that you're encountering, it's an invitation to an encounter with God. Your struggle is an invitation to that encounter that he has for you. And then there was something else that I really felt was on the heart of the Father, not just that your struggle is an invitation for an encounter. I feel that point really needs to come out from what I was sharing last week. But the other word that God was really speaking to me was reconciliation, and more of a divine reconciliation, where I think we all have the idea of like, oh yeah, it's good to be reconciled with your brother. Oh, if I'm mad at this person, go to your brother, talk to them, and be reconciled. And there's something deeper that God's doing in this season. I really feel like there's a season of reconciliation that we've stepped into, but it's a divine reconciliation. And I've heard before, God didn't come to make bad men good. He came to make dead men alive. And so there's this reconciliation of things that we thought were dead, that were done, or like we completely gave up on them. And God wants to bring that back and reconcile it and make things right, and to show you his glory, his power, what he can do in the situation. When we read about Lazarus, Jesus didn't go and encounter Lazarus until he had been dead for several days. Jairus' daughter, he waited to go in until she was dead. So I think when we think of God, he's the God of the impossible. He will let situations get to the point where we have written them off, where we think this is dead, there's no hope, there's no way, to the point where we've even forgotten about them. Lazarus's relatives were crying like, if you had been here, he would have stayed with us. He would have been alive. So they had already written it off like, it's done. It's over. He's dead. And I think from a human perspective, death is final. Death is the end. And I think there's so many situations in our lives that we think about, whether it's an opportunity missed or a dream that we had or relationships that we just count them as dead. We've forgotten about them. We're like, okay, that time is over. That is past. It's done. We don't have any more hope surrounding it, and we've written it off as dead. But God is the God of the living. And so he has come to make dead things alive again. And so that's what he's come to do in this season. It's a season of deep divine reconciliation, where the things that we've written off, God has said, I'm about to do something here. I'm about to bring this dead thing back to life and revive it, and just to watch and see what he will do. I really feel that that's the season that we're stepping into, of this divine reconciliation, where things that we've written off as dead, God is like, watch what I can do with something that you call dead. What you call dead, no. It was just asleep. So, Father, for those listening today, I just pray that you help them to see, first and foremost, the struggle that they may be encountering, that they're following you, but they've encountered a struggle, to let them know that the struggle is an invitation to an encounter. Don't see it as something that's combating them, but see it as an invitation to encounter. The encounter is in the struggle. And Father, for those that you've reminded them of some situations today that they have written off as dead. You're like, it's finished, it's done. I don't even have any hope of going back to this. I've even forgotten about it. God is in the season of bringing those things back to life, because what you thought was dead, God says, no, it was just asleep. Watch what I will do. Until next time, thank you for listening, and God bless.